All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television. We will now take a quick look at the stories that made it to the front page of the newspapers this morning. And as usual, we'll begin with the Daily Trust. The major stories here read, amidst budget padding allegation, 500 million largesse tears senators apart. Ningi suspended for 3 months, quits as Northern Senator's chair. Nigerians will never respect Senate in the future. This is coming from Akpabio. And leaders allege plot to impeach Senate president. Leader. You'll find these stories on pages 4 and 10. And we have right there the pictures of the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuri Badu, with Ministers of Defense, Badru, Abubakar, and Bello Matawali, and the service chiefs after a meeting on strengthening the country's security. I dare to say it's a meeting that is coming at the nick of time, considering the numbers of adoptions that we have seen across the country. Mob raises Abuja market as prison officers gunned down fleeing suspects. Bandits kidnaps 30 villagers in Kaduna, returns to Kuriga 5 days after. This is really, really pathetic. And 2024 Hajj pilgrims in limbo as NACON yet to remit funds. In fact, we understand the deadline was February 25th. We are way past that deadline. I mean, if you jack any fee by 2 million from 4.5, I wonder how Nigerians will meet that. And very quickly, Niger residents fault renaming of Abubakar Imam International Airport. Sokoto adopters of Sangaya students demand 20 million ransom. And African Games, Nigeria secures second position with 6 more gold medals. We're doing very well on that front, I guess.
I mean, we always do well at the Africa Games.
So what happens with transiting from that point and taking it to the global stage?
The All Africa Games need to be improved upon, because it needs to be a star competition that has all the attention of the continent. Right now, the only game across the continent that attracts this much interest and attention is the AFCON. And unfortunately, we have a lot more to offer, beyond just
beyond that. All right, that's it on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning.
The Guardian is up next, so let's take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper. More from the National Assembly, budget padding. We are all culpable. 500 million naira awards to ranking senators unsettled, exposes National Assembly rot. More on that on page 6. Nigerians lament rising airfare as experts blame exchange rate. Court strikes out suit seeking Igbo's exit from Nigeria. Who is actually pursuing this particular suit? Exactly. The Igbos out of Nigeria?
That's crazy.
Okay. Revival of night patrol as prelude to reforming the police. Bandits capture another 30 as Inspector General Police visits Kaduna. If there's ever a slap on the face, this is it. When the chief of police himself is in town to assess the security situation, and the bandits say, you know what, that doesn't scare us. We're just going to do what we're going to do, regardless. But in other news, Naira's free fall, lean budget hobble Nigerian missions abroad. World Trade Organization inaugurates $1.2 million facility to boost food safety in Nigeria. More on these stories on the pages of the Guardian newspaper for today.
All right, we'll move on to the Nigerian Tribune and staying with the National Assembly. Alleged 3.7 trillion budget padding. House senators nailed Ningi. Okpemi, Musa, Ibrahim, Karimi, others set tone for his 3-month suspension. Jaribe claims so-called senior senators got 500 million each. Those who lost out in race for Senate presidency bent on ousting Akpabio. Court can't stop suspension of Bauchi Senator, Senate spokesman. And Ningi resigns as Northern Senator Forum chairman. Akpabio meets with Tinubu, whatever that means. But we have another interesting picture there on the front page of the president visiting former military president, the only one with such toga in Nigeria, General Muhammadu. The last time I was accused of forgetting General Buhari so far quick. This time I'm referring to General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, and it's
I don't know how he feels
Hilltop
about
residency.
how he feels about the renaming of the airport.
Well,
I don't know how he feels
strange
about
because
it.
it was only renamed in the twilight of the last administration, and before then he had a name. And to think that these things are being renamed by people who didn't even build them. This was built by IBB. I was a young man at the time, a very young boy at the time in Mina when the airport was relocated from its location to Mekunkele, where it's currently resited. And I mean, to think that the name I was used to some 25, 30 years ago is not, I mean, has
how
gone
many
through.
remarkable individuals come from Niger State?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have any problem with President Tinubu being immortalized, but at this moment in time, I think he's still trying to lay the foundation for that legacy to be immortalized in the future. Usually you immortalize people who have already done it in the past and, you know, who deserve this kind of recognition, but he's still a seventh president, and I think that it's a bit premature at this moment.
Very premature, and to be done by.
But it's all politics anyway.
Well, sometimes some things you feel must appear to be deserving. Moving on to other stories there, Osun governor raises alarm over planned attack on schools and farms. I hope this doesn't just stop there, that we do things to stop these acts on the track. 3.325 trillion allocation, reps worry over ravaging insecurity, probes utilization of 200 million, or rather $20 million safe school funds, and adoption of over 200 students. Economic crisis, Tinubu wants apportion blame. Shetima, aren't we seeing those blames already? A fair share of them have been apportioned to President Buhari and to Governor Emefiele, former Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele. Body of killed driver of kidnapped Ekiti school children recovered painfully. Atiku tackles Tinubu over report linking him to PDP exit. And bandits demand 20 million in exchange for Sokoto Sangaya students. These are the stories that made it the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. All right, we now have joining us in the studio as usual every Wednesday morning, Mr. Ben Shama, former director of news, the Voice of Nigeria. He comes in his full complement. He's got a red cap on this morning, signifies that he's here ex cathedra. You want to take everything he tells you from these tables this morning. And I'm sure there's nobody missing, as he said last week, even though he has accused them before we came on set.
The cycle is complete.
The cycle is complete. None is missing, none is unaccounted. None is unaccounted.
None is missing in action.
None is missing in action.
Yes, as we win, so we are.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let us take a deep dive into the conversations rather than the Senate conversation that we have had to drill down on our previous segment. I would rather we begin with the kidnap of 30 villagers in Kaduna yesterday. I mean, Kaduna has been in the news for the wrong reason for over a week. The Chukum guys are asking for twice the size of our national budget. The kidnapping of the school was done in broad daylight at the assembly grounds, and we did not get any response. And we saw another one yesterday. At the time, the Inspector General of Police was in town. And we all know the architectural structure of Kaduna. In fact, in local parlance, it is considered as bariki. If you know what that means. What's your impression of what's going on in Kaduna?
It's terrible, terrible as in terrible. Because I come from the state. I'm from southern part of Kaduna state. And those days that killings were always in southern Kaduna, each time we cry out, they said, no, the conflict there is historical. So if it's historical, it should continue. There has to be a way out. If a Modakeke was on, historical, it is all over, you know, then today we're seeing this new approach to conflict. In sort of violent conflict, this kidnapping. And the recurrent aspect of it, it's so disturbing to the extent that, you see, Sunday, this is dry season, and vegetation is low, grasses are down, shrubs are down. You can see as far as, I mean, with ordinary eyes. Now, when you have this kind of a kidnap, not even in the night, during assembly, when children or pupils were supposed to go to classes, Then it happened. Something ought to, with all these funds here and there, I mean, with all this school protection initiative, with all this GSM here and there, even when we had them, what happened? In terms of even community policing, we are told that some people pass information to the authorities, the security agencies. Why was the response so it wasn't there? It was thereafter. You now see the show of force. You know, we love a situation where there is something happening. From the Air Force base, one helicopter takes off and begins to trail these people while running commentary, describing where they all are moving on to. We're talking of school children, some barely 10 years. I mean, if you've taken, it's not easy managing those people. And even if we're talking of surveillance, in most cases, some of this Kaduna State uniform is white, green, white, green. Green cap, white dress, or then the short green. Therefore, up there you can identify something white easily, and you trail and probably react. But when it happens this way, I mean, the vegetation is in our favor to detect this, to see this, to react, and bring.
Let's just. I hope you can help us understand how this works from your numerous years in defense reporting. Given the nature of this state and the likelihood of this kind of attacks to happen, one would have thought that we would have standby forces. The way we have fire servicemen all dressed up and waiting for it, not like praying for it to happen, but being ready to be called to action.
There are flashpoints. They have the intelligence reports and everything.
Do you think we have a semblance? Because we have never seen it. Every time these reports happen, they are reported in the media within the space of 12 hours. Do you even think 12 hours is late to begin a chase? How big is this country, for God's sake, that things like this happen and you get these flimsy comments from the authorities and that's it, until another attack happens at the same place in a couple of days down the line? Do you think we have those kind of architectures?
Honestly, I think something is wrong. Maybe there's the political will is not there. It's not enough that attacks have taken place and a governor or government officials begin to rush into that place. We've come to sympathize with you. Who is interested in the sympathy? You know, we want a protection. Go to chapter 2 of the Constitution, where the fundamental objective of government is protect the human being, protect the property, and ensure that life is good. Let people sleep very well. If we therefore have the social contract with the authorities, we voted you in so that we can sleep as you are awake, because that's your duty. But if it fails, I mean, it says quite a lot of things. But Sunday and Abdullah, let me tell you, look at images coming from CNN, coming from Al Jazeera. I mean, it's no longer that of the fact that these people have been killed. You look at the environment, the footage is being released. You just see some thatched houses. You just see places without roads. You see places without hospitals. You look at the schools. So will you call that, in fact, even a prison is supposed to be more attractive than what they call those schools? Look at those structures, this flat roofing they did during the days of the military. They are the ones being maintained today. When El Rufai was telling us education, the best standard will come from Kaduna, and you go to some places, I mean, you don't just see what is obtainable. Look at, you see houses, some little gutters meandering between doors of houses, and mosquitoes are there. We're talking of meningitis, we're talking of Lassa fever within this period. All of this also constitute insecurity. It's just not when you have somebody terrorizing you with some AK-47 or even then guns or knives. But you have situations where the government, when the military is also supposed to act immediately, they don't have access roads. So that belongs to the political class. They ought to put structure on ground. Where are the roads? If they are not even tarred, can we have feeder roads? We should have. That's why local governments should be given their financial autonomy, so that they should they can clear some of these roads for any eventuality. A situation where constantly, where we say we condemn, tomorrow we condemn. Okay, it happened in Kuriga, how many were gone? And thereafter, look at Boningora, where some people were kidnapped and the bandits are looking for 40 trillion naira. Even the budget of Nigeria is not up to that amount.
Let's talk about that for let's talk about that for a moment. Do you think, you know, they're mocking the government, they're mocking the system right now because none of these demands are reasonable? I mean, there is no reasonable ransom because ransom is illegal, quote unquote. But you know, when they make such demands, because they know this particular kidnapping, like the Dapchi kidnapping, like the Chibok kidnapping, has, you know, grabbed the attention of the international community, and the Nigerian government right now is, you know, feeling the pressure. Do you think that you know, these bandits are now having a field day with even some of these ridiculous amounts that they're making public?
Honestly, they are. Now look at the days of Buhari. When you had one criminal in the name of Buhari, he called himself Buhari Ndaji. If we think that we have Buhari in the city, Buhari who is ruling Nigeria or governing Nigeria, okay, they also have their own Buhari Ndaji. It's a kind of to ridicule the system. And when you select, therefore, what you call the very weak in society, vulnerable group in society for attack, kidnap them, is to show the government that, look, if you think you have power, come and protect these innocent ones. I mean, these are people you should protect like eggs. But they are now these eggs are being rubbish on top of stones. That is what these bandits are telling the authorities. We can challenge you, and they are challenging you. And that's why it's so ridiculous. Look at when you had Abubakar Shekau, when they said, I mean, some bounties were placed on his head, and some people, they also said, okay, whoever can get some of these guys in authority, we're going to give you a ram. So you can see the way they've so reduced those in authority. We expect that time has come that look, the authorities should say no. And when we say authorities, the civil authority and the military powers will have to be deployed, so that we have a better Nigeria.
Staying with the Kuriga, just before we go, I guess, yesterday Sheikh Gumi offered to negotiate the release of the students. He said the Tinubu administration should not make the same mistake the Buhari administration made by ignoring the idea of negotiating with these bandits. Where do you stand on these kind of non-state actors and their contributions to addressing the prevailing insecurity?
Now, you see, in as much as the negotiation does not involve these local people going to sell their land, sell houses, sell everything to give bandits who will just go and buy guns. Can we begin to talk of humanity? Sheikh Gumi is a military officer. Sheikh Gumi, I'm told, is also a medical doctor. Sheikh Gumi is also a religious cleric, so to speak. Now, can we begin to have a situation where we're talking of humanity? Can we begin to talk of a situation where we're having Ramadan and we begin to talk of the fear of Allah, the fear of God in heaven, in all of this? Why should innocent, very innocent people, in fact, even an old man, not a youth for that matter, why should he be a victim of all of this? So I think that government with Gumi, they can sit and talk. And if Gumi says he's going to negotiate, if government even says, okay, we have no room for negotiation, as they usually say, can Gumi, because of his credentials, also wade into this? Okay, let me go do it all alone and see what has happened. History will judge him very well. But if government is also saying, we are not going to negotiate, we are not a weakling, but if you are not a weakling, what is happening now, that we've seen this kind of embarrassment locally and internationally. And when you have this kind of, look at the days of Chibok. The moment Mrs. Obama said, bring back our girls, UN did something, then the value of those school students increased in the face of Boko Haram, the kidnappers. So by the time this international attention is all over these girls, it enhances the value. To them, they've seen a financial special value in these helpless children they are holding. These vulnerable people who indeed ordinarily they ought to be playing with, who are their children, who indeed are relations, who indeed would be the same religion, the same faith, the same humanity above all, with them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benjamin, for finding time to stop by. It's a pathetic situation in Kaduna, and we hope that our military authority will rise above board and do the needful so that they can return, these people can return to their normal life in a peaceful Kaduna as we used to know it. Once again, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
So much, Mr.
All right, viewers at home, I'm afraid this is where we have to anchor for today. It's a very engaging conversation. We can go on and on and on, but time would not permit, as we've got so much lined up for your viewing pleasure today. And this is where, of course, like I said, we'll bring this to a close. We want to thank you for giving us your time and for participating in our conversations this morning. I am Sunday Michael Ogu. Let's do this again tomorrow.
Thank you so much for your time and company as always. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8 a.m. For now, stick around. At the top of the hour, bring you 360 Sports. Good morning.